My fiancé said, "My family? None of your damn business. Don't ask again." So I stopped sharing mine too. When she found out I'd been protecting everything while she stole $20,000, the meltdown was legendary. All right, Reddit. My fiancé told me her family was off limits and none of my concern. So I respected that boundary. Stopped sharing financial plans, business deals, everything. Months later, when she discovered I'd been quietly protecting my assets while she secretly funneled $20,000 to her bankrupt family, reality hit her like a freight train. Here's how 2 years collapsed in one conversation. I'm Nathan, 36 male, and I've been engaged for about 8 months now. Well, I was engaged. Past tense matters here. We'd been dating for 2 years before I proposed, and honestly, things were solid. Not fairy tale perfect, but good enough that I thought we were building towards something real. Victoria was independent, driven, had her own career in pharmaceutical sales, made decent money, had her own place before she moved into mine, and had this way of making me laugh even when work was kicking my ass. She was the kind of woman who could hold a conversation with anyone. My business partners, my family, random strangers at bars. Socially sharp, but there was always this wall when it came to her family. From early on, I noticed she never really talked about them. Her parents, her siblings, her extended family. It was like they existed in some parallel universe she refused to let me into. At first, I didn't push. Everyone has complicated family dynamics, right? My own family's got its share of drama. My dad and his brother haven't spoken in 15 years over some property dispute. My cousin went through a nasty divorce that split the family into camps. I get it. Family shit gets messy. But as Victoria and I got more serious, it started feeling strange. Wrong even. I'd met her family exactly twice in 2 years. Both times were brief, awkward dinners where everyone smiled too much and said too little. Her dad barely made eye contact. Her mom asked polite questions about my work, but had this distant quality, like she was reading from a script. Her younger brother showed up late, left early, and contributed exactly 3 sentences to the conversation. The whole thing felt performative, like we were all playing parts in some stage production nobody wanted to be in. I run a logistics consulting firm, help mid-sized companies optimize their supply chains and distribution networks. Sounds boring, and honestly, it kind of is. But it pays extremely well, and I've built it from nothing over the past decade. Started as a one-man operation working out of my apartment at 26, cold calling potential clients, and living on ramen while I built my reputation. Those first 2 years were brutal. 80-hour weeks, constant rejection, watching my savings account dwindle while I bet everything on making it work. But I stuck with it. Landed my first major client, a regional furniture distributor, hemorrhaging money on inefficient routing. I cut their transportation costs by 30% in 6 months. They told everyone they knew. Word spread. More clients came. Within 5 years, I had enough work to hire my first employee. Within 8 years, I had an office and a team. Now I've got 12 employees and clients across 4 states. The business clears about $800,000 annually after expenses and salaries. Not tech startup money, but solid, sustainable income that grows every year. The business is entirely mine. No partners, no investors, no debt. Just me and the company I built from scratch. I'm careful with money. Not cheap. I'll spend on quality when it matters. But I don't throw cash around on dumb shit. My dad was a financial advisor for 30 years who watched too many clients destroy themselves with bad decisions. Guys making $200,000 a year living like they made $500,000. Financing lifestyles they couldn't afford, assuming the money would always keep flowing. He'd come home and tell me stories about clients losing houses, marriages imploding over debt, retirements evaporating because someone just had to have the bigger boat. He drilled fiscal responsibility into me from day one. Nathan, the fastest way to lose everything is to assume you'll never lose anything. That advice turned out to be worth its weight in gold. The apartment I own is a 2-bedroom in a decent part of town. Bought it 6 years ago when the market dipped after some local economic turbulence. Everyone else was panicking. I was shopping. Put down 30% because I'd saved aggressively since starting the business, and paid it off aggressively over the next 4 years. No mortgage now, just HOA fees and property taxes. The place is worth about $150,000 more than I paid for it. My car is a 5-year-old Lexus ES that runs perfectly and will for another decade. Bought it used with 30,000 miles from some executive who upgraded to something flashier. It's comfortable, reliable, and boring. Exactly what I need. I'm not out here trying to impress anyone with a car payment. I've got retirement accounts maxed out every year since I turned 25. Investment portfolios diversified across index funds, bonds, and some individual stocks my dad helped me pick. Enough liquid savings to weather pretty much any financial storm. 18 months of expenses sitting in high-yield accounts, untouched. The business has its own emergency fund. Everything's structured, protected, and growing. This wasn't luck. This was discipline. This was every Friday night I stayed home working instead of going out. Every vacation I didn't take so I could reinvest in the business. Every time I drove past a car dealership and kept driving. Every time I saw friends financing lifestyles they couldn't afford and made a different choice. Victoria moved in after our first year together. It happened gradually. She'd stay over more nights than not, kept leaving clothes in my closet, started contributing to groceries. Eventually, it just made sense to make it official. Things seemed natural. We split groceries and utilities 50-50. She contributed to household stuff, and we maintained separate bank accounts while sharing one credit card for joint expenses. Dinners out, trips, weekend getaways, that kind of thing. Normal adult relationship finances. Her own place had been a one-bedroom apartment in a complex on the other side of town. Nothing fancy, but she kept it clean and organized. When she moved in with me, we put most of her furniture in storage since my place was already furnished. Kept her couch, though. It was actually nicer than mine, better for watching movies. The transition was smooth. No fights about space or whose stuff went where. She had her bathroom drawer, I had mine. She took over half the closet, I compressed my wardrobe to make room. She brought her plants, about 15 of them. And suddenly the apartment felt more alive. I'd never been much for decorating, but she had an eye for it. Throw pillows, artwork, little touches that made the place feel like a home instead of just a bachelor pad. Looking back, that should have been the warning sign right there. She was great at making surfaces look good while hiding what was underneath. The engagement happened on a trip to Colorado last winter. I'd planned this whole thing. Sunrise proposal at some scenic overlook outside Aspen. Photographer hidden nearby to capture the moment. Champagne in a backpack. The works. Spent 3 weeks coordinating everything, making sure the weather would cooperate, booking the perfect spot. We hiked up before dawn, her complaining the whole way about how early it was, me just trying to get us there on time. When the sun started breaking over the mountains and I dropped to one knee, her complaints evaporated. She cried, said yes, and I actually felt like I'd done something right. The photographer got amazing shots. Her face lit up by the sunrise, both of us grinning like idiots. The ring catching the light. She posted 17 Instagram stories about it over the next 48 hours. Every angle of the ring, the location, us together, captions about how surprised she was, how perfect it was, how I'd outdone myself. My family was thrilled when I called them from the airport. My mom actually screamed. My dad got on the phone and said, "Proud of you, son. She's a good one." My sister immediately started talking about wedding venues and guest lists and dress shopping. That's when the weirdness with Victoria's family really started standing out. I'd told her to call her parents from the airport too. Figured they'd want to hear about the engagement right away. Share the excitement. She made the call while we waited for our flight, and I watched her face change from excited to something else. Flat. Guarded. "Yeah, we're engaged," she said into the phone, zero enthusiasm in her voice. A pause. "I'll send you pictures." Another pause. "I don't know yet. We haven't talked about dates." A longer pause. "Okay. Yeah. I'll talk to you later." She hung up and immediately checked her phone for messages. When I asked if her parents were excited, she just said, "They're happy for us," in a tone that suggested they were anything but. Over the next few days, my phone was blowing up with congratulations from my extended family, friends, co-workers. People sending gifts, offering to help with planning, asking about dates and venues. Victoria got some texts from friends, a few calls, but nothing from her family beyond that one conversation. Her mom didn't call back. Her dad didn't call at all. Her brother sent a 3-word text. "Congrats, you two." That was it. No dinner to celebrate. No questions about when they'd meet my family. No offers to help with planning. Just silence from the people who were supposed to be gaining a son-in-law. I mentioned it to Victoria about a week after we got back. "Have you talked to your parents more about the engagement? My mom's dying to start coordinating with your mom about planning stuff." "They're just not really into that kind of thing," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Into what thing? Their daughter's wedding? They're just private people." Private people. That was her explanation for why her family showed zero interest in arguably one of the biggest events of her life. And I accepted it at the time, because I wanted to believe her. Because questioning it would mean acknowledging something was fundamentally wrong. About 3 months ago, I tried to address it. We were sitting in the living room on a Sunday afternoon, and I'd just gotten off the phone with my mom. She was asking about wedding plans, and whether Victoria's family would be involved in any of the planning. "Hey," I said, putting my phone down. "My mom was asking about your family. She wants to coordinate with your mom about some of the wedding stuff. Should I give her your mom's number, or do you want to handle that?" Victoria looked up from her laptop, and I saw her jaw tighten. That instant muscle tension that means you've touched a nerve. I'll handle it, she said flatly. Okay, cool, I replied. Also, I was thinking maybe we could all have dinner together soon. Both families. It might be nice before things get hectic with planning. That's not necessary. The tone was ice cold. Not annoyed, not tired, just completely shut down. I mean, it's not necessary, I pressed gently, but it could be nice. They're going to be family too, you know. It'd be good for everyone to get to know each other. She closed her laptop with a snap that echoed in the quiet room. Can we not do this right now? Do what? I'm just trying to... My family issues are none of your business, she cut me off, voice sharp as a blade. Don't ask again. The words hit me like cold water, not the message itself. I could understand someone having complicated family dynamics. It was the tone, sharp, final, like a door slamming in my face while I stood in the hallway with groceries. I sat there for a moment, processing. This wasn't, I need time to figure out how to explain this, or let me think about the right way to handle it. This was, shut up and stay out of it. All right, I said quietly. She went back to her laptop like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just drawn a line in the sand between us. Like we hadn't just fundamentally changed the terms of our relationship. But something had shifted in me. If her family was none of my business, then fine. But trust is a two-way street, and she'd just put up a roadblock I couldn't ignore. That conversation changed how I operated. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, like water finding a new path around an obstacle. I started keeping certain things to myself, not out of spite, out of self-preservation. If she wanted walls, I'd respect them. But I wasn't going to keep tearing down my own while she reinforced hers. The first thing I stopped sharing was financial stuff. We weren't married yet, so our finances were still separate, but we'd talked about combining them after the wedding. I'd been completely transparent up until that point. She knew I had a decent amount saved, that I owned the apartment outright, that the business was doing well. She knew I'd been planning to use some savings for a down payment on a bigger house after we got married. Something with a yard, maybe in the suburbs, room for kids eventually. What she didn't know was that I'd been in talks with a financial advisor about restructuring some investments. I was setting up a trust, actually. Something my dad had suggested years ago that I'd finally gotten around to doing. It wasn't about hiding money from her. It was about protecting assets I'd built before we met. The business, the apartment, my retirement accounts. Creating legal structures that would keep everything separate and protected. My dad's advice echoed in my head. Son, hope for the best but prepare for the worst. A prenup and a trust aren't pessimism. They're insurance. But I didn't mention any of this to Victoria. She also didn't know that I'd started consulting with a lawyer about a prenup. After that conversation about her family, something in my gut told me to be careful. I wasn't trying to be cold, just realistic. If she couldn't be open with me about her family, what else might she be holding back? The prenup conversation was necessary anyway. I had investments and property from before we met, and Arizona's laws on marital property meant I needed protection. I'd been putting it off because I didn't want to upset her. Now, I just scheduled the meeting and didn't bring it up. Around the same time, my best friend Kevin asked me to be a partner in a business venture he was starting. Kevin and I go back to college. Met freshman year, lived together junior and senior year. Stayed close after graduation. He'd been working in commercial real estate for a decade, knew the market inside and out, and had found an opportunity he was excited about. He wanted to start a commercial property management company focused on small retail spaces, strip malls, standalone stores, the unglamorous stuff that bigger firms ignored. The market was there, he had the expertise, and he needed a financial partner who understood business operations. It would require about $50,000 in capital up front, enough to secure our first property, cover initial renovations, and float operating costs for the first 6 months. Plus, significant time investment from both of us. Kevin handling day-to-day operations, me consulting on financial strategy and optimization. We met for lunch on a Tuesday, and Kevin walked me through his entire business plan. He'd done his homework, market analysis, competitor research, detailed financial projections, risk assessment. The numbers made sense. Conservative estimates had us breaking even within 18 months and profitable by year 3. Aggressive estimates cut that timeline in half. I know it's a lot to ask, Kevin said, sliding the business plan across the table. But I trust your judgment, and you're the only person I'd want as a partner on this. Normally, this is exactly the kind of thing I discuss with Victoria. Major financial decision, time commitment, risk assessment, all the stuff you talk through with your partner when you're building a life together. She should have been part of this conversation. Her input should have mattered. Instead, I just told Kevin I'd think about it, and ran the numbers myself over the next week. Reviewed the business plan 3 times. Cross-checked his market analysis. Called a friend who worked in commercial real estate to get a second opinion. Everything checked out. Made the decision solo. Wrote the check for $50,000 from my business account. Signed the partnership papers. Became 50-50 partners in what we called Apex Property Management. Never mentioned it to Victoria, not once. It just went into the category of things that are none of her business since her family is none of mine. The irony was beautiful in a dark way. She was hiding her family's financial collapse and secretly draining our joint account to bail them out. I was hiding a legitimate business investment that would probably double my money within 3 years. We were both keeping secrets, but mine were about building wealth while hers were about hemorrhaging it. 2 weeks after Victoria's none of your business comment, my mom called asking about Thanksgiving plans. She wanted to know if Victoria's family would be joining us at the big family dinner my parents host every year. I don't think so, I said. She's got her own thing going on with them. Oh, my mom said, sounding disappointed. Well, maybe we can all do something together for Christmas then. Maybe, I replied, non-committal. I wasn't going to force it. When Victoria asked me later what my family was doing for Thanksgiving, I kept it simple. The usual, big dinner at my parents' house. Are we going? She asked. I am, I said evenly. You're welcome to come if you want. She frowned. If I want? We're engaged. Of course I'm coming. I just didn't want to assume, I said. Since family stuff can be complicated. She caught the edge in my tone but didn't push it. Smart move on her part, because I was ready to have that conversation again, and it wouldn't have gone the way she wanted. What time should we leave? She asked instead. Thanksgiving came and went. It was fine. Good food, family chaos, the usual dynamics. But I noticed my family asking Victoria polite questions about her own family, and she gave vague, minimal answers. They're doing well. Just a quiet dinner at home. No, they won't be visiting. My mom gave me a look across the table that said everything. Something's not right here. My sister pulled me aside while we were doing dishes. Is everything okay with Victoria's family? She seems really uncomfortable whenever they come up. That's because her family is none of my business, I said, repeating Victoria's exact words. My sister's eyebrows shot up. She actually said that? Word for word. Wow, that's not normal. Nope. My sister, who's a family therapist and knows way too much about relationship dynamics, gave me this concerned look. Nathan, you know that level of secrecy usually means something serious is going on, right? Abuse, addiction, major dysfunction? I know, I cut her off. But she made it clear I'm not allowed to ask. So I'm not asking. That's not healthy. Neither is being told to mind my own business by the woman I'm supposed to marry. She didn't have a response to that. December rolled around, and wedding planning started getting serious. We had a venue booked for the following summer. Nice place overlooking a lake. Capacity for 200 guests. Cost a small fortune to secure. Deposits were due. Caterers needed final counts. My mom and sister were heavily involved, asking questions, offering help, trying to coordinate things. Every time they asked about Victoria's family's involvement, I'd just shrug and say, she's handling that side of things. But she wasn't handling it. I could tell from the way she'd tense up whenever wedding stuff came up, how she'd change the subject, how she'd suddenly remember something urgent she needed to do whenever my mom started asking about coordinating with Victoria's mom. Her mom had sent exactly one text asking about the date, and nothing since. No calls, no offers to help, no excitement, no questions about colors, venues, dresses, guest lists, none of the stuff that mothers supposedly get excited about. It was bizarre. One evening in mid-December, we were going over the guest list. I had my family's side done. About 70 people all accounted for, addresses confirmed, dietary restrictions noted. I'd spent weeks organizing it into a neat spreadsheet. How many people is your family inviting? I asked. I'm not sure yet, she said, not looking up from her phone. Well, we need to give the venue a rough count by next week, I replied. Can you check with them? I'll handle it, she snapped. I'm not saying you won't, I replied calmly. I'm just saying we have a deadline. The venue needs numbers to finalize catering. She put her phone down and glared at me. Why are you being like this? Like what? Distant, cold. You've been weird for weeks. I almost laughed. She had the nerve to call me distant after building a wall around her entire family situation. I've been weird? I kept my voice level. You told me your family was none of my business. I'm just respecting that boundary. That's not what I meant, she said, but her voice had lost its edge. Then what did you mean? I asked. Because I heard you pretty clearly. She didn't answer, just picked up her phone again and left the room. Christmas at my parents' house was a masterclass in awkward tension. Victoria came with me, played the part of the happy fiancée, smiled at all the right times. But I watched her carefully. Noticed how she'd excuse herself to take phone calls. How she'd check her phone obsessively. How she'd flinch whenever my mom asked innocent questions about her family's holiday plans. My dad pulled me aside while we were outside grilling steaks. His one contribution to Christmas dinner that he took very seriously. "Everything all right with you two?" he asked, flipping a ribeye. "Why do you ask?" "Because you both look miserable and you're getting married in 7 months. Leave it to my dad to cut straight to it. "She's got family stuff going on," I said carefully. "Won't talk to me about it." He nodded slowly, that look on his face that meant he was choosing his words carefully. "You remember what I told you about your Aunt Patricia?" I did. Aunt Patricia had hidden her gambling addiction from Uncle Ron for 3 years, racked up $200,000 in debt, lost their house. The marriage didn't survive the revelation. I remember. Secrets don't get smaller with time, son. They get bigger, and they always come out eventually. I know. He flipped the stakes again. "You protected?" "Working on it." He nodded once, satisfied. "Good man." After Christmas dinner, when Victoria and I were driving home, she was quiet. Not comfortable quiet, tense quiet. Like she wanted to say something but couldn't figure out how. "Your family is really great," she finally said. "They like you too. They keep asking about my family." "That's because normal people are interested in their future in-laws," I said, keeping my eyes on the road. "It's just complicated. Most families are." She went quiet again. I let it sit. I'd learned by now that pushing her just made her shut down harder. If she wanted to talk, she'd talk. If not, well, that was her choice. But the walls were getting higher, and I was getting more careful. Early January, I met with my lawyer to finalize the prenup documents. The terms were straightforward. What I brought into the marriage stayed mine. The apartment, the business, my retirement accounts, my investment portfolios. Anything we acquired together during the marriage would be split 50-50 if things went south. Fair, reasonable. Standard stuff for someone with assets to protect. I brought it home on a Wednesday night. Victoria was making dinner. Pasta with this fancy sauce she'd learned from some cooking class. The apartment smelled amazing. Under different circumstances, it would have been a nice domestic scene. I set the folder on the kitchen counter. "What's this?" she asked, glancing over. "A prenup," I said calmly. I had my lawyer draw it up. It's pretty standard. Just protects what we each brought into the marriage. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. "You're seriously asking me to sign a prenup?" "Yes," I said. "It's not about trust. It's just practical." "It's absolutely about trust." She slammed the spoon down. "You don't trust me." "Do you trust me?" I asked quietly. That stopped her cold. "What? Do you trust me?" I repeated, meeting her eyes. "Because you won't let me into huge parts of your life. Your family. Your past. Whatever's going on that's making you this defensive. You've locked me out of all of it. So yeah, I'm being practical. Because I don't know what I don't know." She stared at the folder like it might bite her. "I can't believe you're doing this." "Read it," I said. "Take it to your own lawyer if you want. But I'm not getting married without one." She grabbed the folder and stormed off to the bedroom. I heard the door slam. The pasta sauce started burning. I turned off the stove. She didn't speak to me for 2 days. Just ice-cold silence and sleeping on the couch. The apartment felt like a walk-in freezer. I went about my business, worked, hit the gym, made my own meals. If she wanted to have a standoff, fine. I could outlast her. On the 3rd day, she came to me with the prenup. Unsigned. "I'm not signing this," she said. "Then we're not getting married," I replied evenly. Her eyes filled with tears. Real ones, I think. Hard to tell anymore. "You'd really throw away 2 years over a piece of paper?" "You threw away my trust when you shut me out," I said. "This is just me protecting what's left." "I haven't shut you out," she protested, but her voice was weak. "My family issues are none of your business," I quoted back to her. "Your words? So fine. They're not my business. But my assets aren't yours either, until you decide I'm worth trusting." She wiped her eyes angrily. "You're being cruel." "I'm being realistic," I corrected. "You want partnership without transparency? That's not how this works." She left the apartment and didn't come back that night. I found out later she went to her parents' house, the family that was supposedly none of my business. That told me everything I needed to know. The next morning, my sister called me. Her voice had that careful tone people use when they're about to drop a bomb. "Hey, so this is weird, but I ran into someone yesterday who knows Victoria's family." My stomach dropped. "Okay. They told me something. I don't know if it's true, but..." She hesitated. "Just tell me," I said. "Apparently, Victoria's family is in serious financial trouble. Like bankruptcy-level trouble. They lost their business a few years ago and haven't recovered. Everything clicked into place. The avoidance, the secrecy, the tension at Christmas, the way her parents barely engaged with me when we met. "Are you sure?" I asked. "That's what I was told," my sister said carefully. "And there's more. Apparently, they've been asking Victoria for money. A lot of money." I felt sick. "How much?" "I don't know exact numbers, but enough that it's causing problems." The person I talked to said her parents are facing foreclosure. After that call, I did something I'm not proud of, but I'm not sorry about either. I checked our shared credit card statement, the one we used for joint expenses. Nothing crazy, just dinners out, gas, groceries, occasional trips. Normal couple stuff, except when I looked closer, there were cash withdrawals I didn't recognize. Thousands of dollars over the past 6 months. Always in round numbers. 500 here, 1,000 there. 800, 600, another 1,000. I called the credit card company and got detailed statements going back 18 months. The pattern was clear as day. She'd been withdrawing cash regularly and never mentioned it. The withdrawals started small, $200, $300, about a year ago. Then they got bigger and more frequent. I did the math, pulled up my spreadsheet, cross-referenced dates. $20,000, give or take a few hundred. $20,000 withdrawn in cash over the course of a year, and she'd never said a word. When Victoria came back to the apartment 2 days later, I had the statements printed out on the kitchen table. All of them, all of 18 months of transactions, highlighted in yellow where cash withdrawals appeared. She walked in, saw the papers spread out like evidence at a crime scene, and froze. "Sit down," I said calmly. She sat, eyes fixed on the papers, looking like she might throw up. "How much have you given them?" I asked. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice shook. "Don't," I said firmly. "Just don't. I know about your family's financial situation. I know you've been sending them money. How much?" She stared at the table, jaw working like she was chewing words she couldn't spit out. "How much?" "About 20,000 over the last year," she finally whispered. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. $20,000 from our joint account, money we'd both contributed to for our shared future, and she'd been secretly funneling it to her family while telling me to mind my own business. "It was my money too," she said defensively. "I contributed to that account." "It was our money for our life together," I shot back. "For the wedding, for our future, for the house we were going to buy. And you sent it to your family without telling me?" "They needed it," she whispered. "They were going to lose their house. So you lied to me for a year," I said, voice hard as steel. "You hid this from me while we were planning a wedding, while I was trusting you with my life, while you were living in my apartment, using my resources, planning a future on my financial stability. I didn't know how to tell you," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I was embarrassed, ashamed. So instead you shut me out and made me feel crazy for asking questions," I said. "Made me the bad guy for wanting basic transparency. Told me your family was none of my business, while secretly using our joint money to bail them out." She didn't answer, just sat there crying while the truth sat between us like a corpse. "The prenup makes sense now," I said quietly. "You need access to my money because yours is going to prop up your family." "That's not fair," she cried. "What's not fair is lying to your fiancé for a year," I said. "What's not fair is making me think I was the problem for wanting to know basic information about the person I'm planning to marry." I stood up, suddenly exhausted. "I need time to think. You should stay somewhere else for a few days." "Please," she begged, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "We can work through this." "I don't know if we can," I said honestly. "I don't know if I even know who you are anymore." She packed a bag, still crying, still trying to explain. I didn't want to hear it. Explanations don't undo a year of lies. As soon as she left, I called my lawyer. It's been 6 weeks since that conversation. The engagement is off. I told Victoria 3 weeks ago that I couldn't marry someone who'd hidden something that massive from me. The conversation happened over the phone because I couldn't stomach seeing her in person. She tried to apologize, her voice breaking every few sentences, offering to pay back the money somehow, promising she'd cut off her family financially, swearing she'd never lie to me again. "I'll get a second job," she said desperately. "I'll pay you back every dollar. Just please don't end this. We can fix this." "The money isn't the point," I told her. "It's the lying, the hiding, the year of making me feel crazy for wanting basic honesty from the person I'm supposed to marry." "I was scared," she whispered. "I didn't know how to tell you." "So you chose not to tell me at all," I said. "For a whole year, while planning a wedding, while living in my apartment, while I was building a future around someone who wasn't being honest about her present." "Please," she begged. "I love you. I made a mistake. I can fix this. No, I said simply. You can't. She sent long texts after that phone call, paragraphs about how sorry she was, how she'd made a mistake, how she wanted to fix things, essays about her family situation, explanations I didn't ask for, promises I didn't believe. She called from different numbers when I blocked her. She showed up at my office once, and my assistant had to ask her to leave, but the trust was gone. You can't unring that bell. You can't unknow what you know. You can't rebuild a foundation that never existed in the first place. The whole relationship had been built on selective honesty, her choosing what I was allowed to know, controlling the narrative, keeping me in the dark about massive parts of her life while demanding full access to mine. Ending it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Despite everything, I did love her, or I loved who I thought she was. But I couldn't build a life with someone who saw me as a solution to her problems, rather than a partner. I couldn't marry someone who'd proven they'd lie to my face for a year, rather than have one difficult conversation. She moved out completely 2 weeks ago. I kept the apartment since it was mine before we met. She took her things over the course of 3 trips. Came while I was at work, probably to avoid another confrontation. She took her furniture, her plants, her clothes, her books, left behind the throw pillows she'd bought, and a few framed photos of us that I threw away immediately. The apartment felt empty for about a day. Then it just felt like mine again. I found out through mutual friends that her family situation is worse than I thought. They're facing foreclosure, and her dad's business debts are astronomical. She's apparently back living with them, trying to help them sort through bankruptcy proceedings. Part of me feels bad for her. I do. That's an impossible situation. Watching your family lose everything, feeling like you have to save them, carrying that weight alone, it's brutal. But she chose to handle it by lying to me, by shutting me out, by using money that was meant for our shared future to patch holes in her family's sinking ship. That's not how you treat someone you're building a life with. You don't get to decide which parts of partnership you want and which parts you'll hide behind walls. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.